Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, got a post here by the Hedera Foundation, which is absolutely great news to see. So they say, institutions, enterprises, governments. Today, we unveil an MOU with the Ministry of Justice of Georgia, positioning the nation to implement Hedera across the public sector. Real great stuff to see here. So I've got the article and I'll quickly just go through this. So, Ministry of Justice of Georgia signs memorandum with Hedera to introduce cutting-edge digital technologies in the public sector. The Ministry of Justice of Georgia has signed a memorandum of cooperation with Hedera, one of the leading platforms in the global blockchain ecosystem, paving the way for the introduction of advanced digital technologies in the public sector. During a meeting between the Minister of Justice of Georgia, Partar Salia, and representatives of Hedera, the parties discussed future avenues of cooperation, including the potential transfer of data from the National Agency of Public Registry to the blockchain network. This step aims to further strengthen the protection of property rights while enhancing transparency and the overall reliability of public services. Hedera representatives were also briefed on the, quote, smart contract, unquote, service implemented by the National Agency of Public Registry, as well as its development prospects. In this context, one of the key areas of interest is the tokenization of real estate, which would convert physical assets into digital units. To move forward with the integration of these advanced technologies, the next phase involves the creation of joint working groups composed of experts from the Ministry of Justice and the National Agency of Public Registry. These groups will help transition the collaboration with Hedera into an active operational stage. Okay guys, there you have it. So absolutely incredible stuff to see here. As you can see, we've got here now governments getting involved with Hedera, as we've seen before, but they're actually saying, you know, public sector services. So this is big, like, you know, we're not talking about small stuff here. This is countries using this type of technology for certain aspects of the public sector. This is big. This is not something to be turning your nose at all. And so, looking at it from what I can see, obviously just going by what they've said here, it looks like the main service that they're going into is one, immutable data. So in terms of transparency, because once it's on the blockchain, that information is there and it's immutable. So again, this makes it clear that this is not data that can be tampered with or changed in any way, that kind of thing. But also tokenization, specifically looking like real estate. Again, as I've told you guys before, tokenization is one of the bigger use cases for crypto as a whole. Tokenization is, you know, breaking down doors and barriers for many different things. I'm not surprised to see this in that regard. Tokenization is going to be one of the better use cases for crypto in general, in my opinion. And as I've said to you guys before, Hedera's got a lot of tokenization going on. You know, this isn't the first thing I've heard in terms of, you know, companies tokenizing on Hedera. So, you know, I'm not really that surprised to see this, but again, this is where I say, like, we're at that point of just seeing the global adoption coming through, you know, like a Ministry of Justice using Hedera for their technology for public sector services. This is big, like, this is really big, and this can only start to get bigger and bigger, right? Like, you could start to see other countries, other Ministry of Justices around the world starting to use Hedera as well. Again, this is the early stages of things, and this is why I say to everybody, like, forget the market for a second, because I don't know where we are in this cycle. I don't know if the bull run is over and we're now into a bear market. I don't know if we're just waiting for an extended cycle, and so we will get to a bull run eventually. But the thing that I will say is, like, in terms of what this technology can provide, it's here to stay, right? Like, it's not going to go away. And just to make it clear, like, there was times back in the day with even the internet where they was worried that the internet was going to be a fad, right? They were saying, oh, not many people are using the internet, and, you know, it's not really getting the adoption that they thought they wanted. And look at where the internet is today. You know, literally people wouldn't be able to survive without the internet at this point. If the internet was to just go down completely, there'll be companies, businesses, you know, people you're just stuck to the internet who just need it in their daily lives, who would just be losing their minds, you know, if the internet was to go down. And so I think eventually that's what it will be for, like, crypto. I think there'll be so much adoption and integration with, you know, the financial infrastructure and other things like other sectors and whatnot, you know, healthcare industries and stuff like that, pharmaceuticals, you know, all these kinds of different industries that are going to rely on the crypto technology, that I think it's going to be, you know, imperative of its success. You know, it's going to be inevitable that it succeeds because it is going to be literally just integrated in people's day-to-day lives. And so, yeah, once again, Hedera, one of the networks of choice. And look, I have to say this, like, you know what makes this impressive to me personally? Like, Hedera is not a top 10 cryptocurrency. So for me, like, when I look at this, because, you know, for example, when we look at the whole cross-border payment thing, right, we saw that Swift decided to go with Ethereum to build their layer 2 for cross-border payments. Now, look, I've said my piece on this, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But for me personally, I think they've based that solely on the fact that Ethereum is the number 2 cryptocurrency out there. I don't think they've based it on the utility aspect of what Ethereum can do, because, not being funny, but Ethereum is not a good choice if you really want to do cross-border services, right? It's just not a good choice because the fees fluctuate, it's congested, and yes, you can go to the layer 2, but then you're sacrificing security. So there's different things that where just choosing Ethereum, it's not the best of options, basically, to cut a long story short. So when I look at Hedera and knowing that it's not a top 10 cryptocurrency, and one thing I will just say about this with Hedera, I do think part of that is just because of the fact that Hedera is a cryptocurrency that came out a lot later than some of us. So, you know, like Hedera, I believe, came out in, I want to say it was like 2019, I believe. So, like, Hedera's only experienced one bull run, right? So you've got to understand that as well. So the fact that it's getting this kind of adoption, the fact that it was released a lot later than other cryptocurrencies have been around, but yet it's still getting this kind of recognition and this kind of adoption. To me, I think that's really impressive. You know, that to me speaks volumes. And as I've said before, again, I've seen numerous, you know, companies and developers leave Ethereum to come over to Hedera. So to me, you know, like when it comes down to the utility aspect of this in terms of like what these networks can actually do, Hedera is very impressive in my opinion. And I think that's why it's getting so much recognition and so much adoption. And so, again, what I'm trying to say to you guys is we are at the early stages of all this. You know, like as much as you might be thinking you've been in crypto for years, we're still very early at the end of the day. Like we're not at that point yet where we can see what the clear winners and losers are going to be long term. We're still figuring all that out. It's still happening as we speak. So at the end of the day, like to see this going on at this point, I think is very, very positive. I think it's great to see personally. And it tells you what people think of Hedera. And once again, like this is where if this is successful, you could see, you know, many other Ministry of Justices from other countries wanting to use Hedera as well for their services, right? So it's showing you the potential of where this could go, you know, but even if it does just stick to this is still positive. It's still adoption, you know, it's still recognition. So this is great. This is really great. And so I think this is, again, one of those things where it's the first of many, you know, whether it's the Ministry of Justice or just other government departments or anything like that. Like, I just think it's one of those things where the tides are turning. They're looking at adoption now with crypto. They can see the, you know, where it's going. It's inevitable. And they're choosing their blockchains or their hashgraph, whatever. And I think Hedera is going to stand to do well. And this is evidence of that because you can see them getting these kinds of partnerships and these kinds of adoption from these types of departments, these agencies. We're talking about the government here. You know, we're not talking about just any regular company. We're talking about the government. So that tells you that there's a lot of confidence here. So real great stuff to say. And I thought I'd share this with you. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.